Here we go. So hello to everybody. I'm Susan Asadi, and I am the executive director of this chapter, Global Chamber New York City, and I want to welcome you to our meeting today, Awakening the Global Giant in the City That Never Sleeps.
Boom.
And if you could mute your mic until it's time for you to speak, and please, hi, Stephen, all who are members, go to your name, where the three dots are by your name in the participants, and put GC if you are a member right in front of your name so that it's easier for Natsuyo to know when she's going through the facilitation who's a member and who's not. That would be great. So after you mute, and please mute your mics. Our growing chapter holds these holds monthly meetings in person, and to accommodate members of this chapter who aren't able to attend those meetings, we have created this virtual option, which we are going to have every month on the second Monday of each month at 5 o'clock. And before we get started, as I said, please add GC in front of your name. That includes you, Stephen, if you could do it, Melanie, if you could do it, so that we know who are members, because I know who you guys are, but Natsuyo does not. So you go to where it says participants at the bottom, and then you find your name, and with the three dots, you can rename yourself, just adding GC in front. Okay. So I wanted to share with those of you who were not able to come along with us. We just had a recent meeting in late April where our chapter was invited to Port Liberty and Staten Island by J.P. Ricker, who's the Northeast Regional Manager for the Port of New York and New Jersey. And a few of us here attended, including Natsuyo and Stephanie. His team gave us a behind-the-scenes look at one of the East Coast's busiest terminals, and we stood under the massive cranes. We saw the big signs of safety, pride, and professionalism, and we saw the scale and precision that keeps global trade moving through New York City. So some of the braver ones of us rode up a small elevator over 200 feet in the air to one of the huge container cranes. And we saw breathtaking views of New York and New Jersey. And more importantly, we experienced the scale and ability that this port has to handle on a daily basis the cargo that's moving through New York. So it was a day of learning and connectivity. And I wanted to give Stephanie a minute to say something, if you'd like to share what it was like for you to go up that elevator, because you're one of the brave ones that did that.
Yeah, thank you. No, I really absolutely enjoyed this tour. So it was a great experience and really great insights into this large port venue and facilities. And so we got a good tour by JP and by Bob. And yeah, so and then we the highlight I think was to go up on these big container cranes, and then it was a beautiful view over New Jersey, over the harbor, even to the Statue of Liberty and the New York skyline. We had a beautiful day. Yeah, it was a perfect experience, and we learned a lot during the tour and the presentation, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, Stephanie, thank you. And since Natsuyo will be speaking throughout this meeting today, she chose not to add additional comments, but we were joined by about 10 of our members, and we're going to be doing more of these type of meetings throughout the month, including coming up soon, May 22nd, at Stephen Nikokiris' office, who's on with us today, which is CBIZ Advisors. We're going to be having a meeting May 22 at 5 p.m. in person only, and you must respond through the website. We're going to be having presentations from our members, 15-minute presentations by each one of them. Manabu Sasaki from Itachi, Michael Gross from Cyber Law, and then we're going to have two visiting members from Mexico. They're members through Global Chamber Mexico, who are going to speak to us about American industries. So these in-person meetings offer you a chance to not only hear presentations about our members, but also to develop partnerships with other members. Next, we have a cross-metro virtual event, which is with our London chapter. That's on June 5 at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern, and it's virtual, so different time zones for London. And the focus of that meeting is to be AI ready, strategizing for the future of global business. We're going to have a keynote from a woman named Hande Osek-Basev. She's quite an AI thought leader and a managing partner of a company called WSI Digital Consulting. And then we're going to have a leadership panel that will include Puya Lavian with Wells Fargo, and Sophie Male, who's with the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and Charles Bernard, who many of you here know, advisory board chair, and he has two companies, one particularly that focuses on AI called Calavia. So space will be limited for that meeting, so you don't want to miss signing up for that one. So that's also on the website already, June 5, 11 o'clock. So register as soon as you can. Then on June 23rd at 4 p.m., we're going to be having an event at Wells Fargo, New York City, which is going to be hosted by them, and their senior economist, Charlie Dougherty, will be providing an economic outlook and view of what's driving global growth. So that is another one that you will need to register on the website. That is not fully up yet, but will be up by next week. So the attendance of that event is very limited and will be open primarily to members, but we will allow members to bring one guest if you would like. Okay, so please make sure to sign up for these meetings. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-facilitator, Natsuyo Lipschutz. She's a cultural diversity and cross-cultural communication strategist, is a Japanese English bilingual keynote speaker and facilitator, and she works with global organizations like yourselves that want to improve cultural diversity and have their leaders present, facilitate, and communicate effectively. So I'm going to hand it over to Natsuyo, and I'll be back at the end to talk some more with you. Thank you so much, Natsuyo. It's all yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. That was a mouthful of my introduction. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Natsuyo Lipschutz, and I will be facilitating the discussion today. And if you were here last month, you know that I'd like to start with a rapid-fire introduction of yourself. So I'm going to put in the chat what I would like you to talk about. I'll give you 30 seconds. And when I say 30 seconds, it's a hard 30 seconds. I'm going to put a timer on, and I'm going to put the music, exit music at the 30 seconds. So please be mindful of the time given to you. So talk about who are you? What's your business? And some fun fact about you. Okay, some what's your business and fun fact about you. And I am who Susan said I am. So I'm going to skip my intro, but just fun fact about me. I'm a figure skating daughter's 13-year-old figure skating daughter's mom. And I am also a competitive ballroom Latin dancer myself. Yes. Okay, so with that, I will, let me see who's here. So right next to me on my screen is Doug. So take it away. 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Wendt, proud member of the New York City chapter. I run a company called Wendt Partners. We are one of the world's top HubSpot CRM implementation partners. So we work on implementing that software for sales, marketing, and service. We actually recently started implementing it for the Global Chamber. And fun fact about me, my first career was actually as a paramedic in Connecticut. So started in EMS. Now I'm in business technology. Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Doug. Well, right on time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Academy. Okay, next up is Dash. Well, you definitely have to talk about what's on your background. Okay, 30 seconds, Stash.
Hi guys, Stash Harrison. I am the CEO and founder of Market Intent, an AI research platform focusing on hard-to-find data. Example, e-commerce website that use FedEx to ship or something like that. Fun fact, I have 87 skydives. What's behind me is Supermoon Bakehouse in the Lower East Side. I live on Ludlow, and that's at the corner of Rivington and Essex. And they are amazing. And it's also really close to my house.
So that's your favorite bakery? I got a visit.
Close,
I have a sweet tooth. I have sweet tooth. I definitely have to go. All right. So next, a CGGC. Stephen. Well, you got C and G flipped, but I get it.
Me, Stephen Nikolkiris, or someone else?
You, Stephen.
Okay, hi. Steve Nicolakiris. I'm a CPA with CBiz. We are the 7th largest accounting firm in the country, servicing mid-market and small businesses. I love to work with small businesses and the owners of those businesses. Really try to help them with much more than just their general accounting, really a business advisor and a consultant, and trying to bring value to them well beyond what they would think their normal accountant should do. Fun fact is, I played college baseball. I was an academic All-American.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, I guess I have to wait until the music is done. All right, Melanie.
Hey, I'm Melanie Fox, and they call me Speech Fox because speech is my niche, and I help my clients speak clear and confident English through accent reduction and presentation training, as well as dialect coaching for actors. And my fun fact is that I'm obsessed with MMA, like mixed martial arts, cage fighting. I'm a tiny little thing, but I just love watching violence on TV in any way I can. And my goal is to coach English for the MMA fighters. So if you know Dana White, Joe Rogan, or anybody in the MMA, I want their fighters to speak English after their fights and not use an interpreter. Speech Fox, I can speak a lot of words. Bye.
Oh, wow. Who knew you would be a fighter? Okay, next, I'm going to pick a member. Manabu. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Manabu Sasaki. I head the corporate development at Itochu International, which is the North American headquarters of a Japanese multi-industry, multinational firm. Fun fact about me is I play hockey, but also represented Indonesia in Little League Baseball.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Manabu. Okay, so next member would be Stephanie.
Hello, hi. So I'm a marketing and sales professional with 10 years of experience in the fast-moving consumer goods and CPG and travel industry. And I have a special passion for event planning. And yeah, I also wanted to say as my fun fact that I have done skydiving twice, but now this has already been taken. And so now I think my new fun fact is that the now King of Spain once held the door in his palace in Madrid open for me.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. That's a fun fact. Okay, looking for GC. Barry.
Hey, I'm Barry in Colorado with Antos Edge Consulting. What we do is work with organizations to produce unpredictable, unprecedented results with new futures for all the people there and having great, great lives. And my fun fact is I just got back from Poland recording original music with a guy who works at Netflix. It's just great. So there you go. You'll hear my stuff someday.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Barry. Next member is Anthony.
Hi, everyone. Anthony DeFilippis, co-CEO of Cargo Trans. We're an end-to-end supply chain logistics business. We are boutique and concierge and very tech focused. We support SMEs in all things logistics, shipping, and especially tariffs these days. I guess a fun fact about me is that I'm a bit of a travel addict. I've lost count. I need to update my count, but I think I've been to about 90 to 100 countries.
Wow. Thank you. Almost all the world. Okay, I think I went through all the members, right? So now, since we have a small group, I will have non-members introduce yourself as well. And one benefit of being a member is that you get 10 seconds more of a self-introduction than non-members. So non-members, you have 20 seconds. Okay, let's start with Salim. Did I pronounce your name right? Can you unmute?
Sorry. Yeah, you
All
did.
right.
You did.
All
Yeah.
right, 20 seconds, go.
So my name's Salim. I'm the founder and CEO of Logbridge Limited, which is a international trade intermediary service. I connect clients with logistic partners, suppliers, and regulatory bodies. And my fun fact is I like training, so gym, exercising a lot. Is that my 20 seconds?
Thank you so much. My timer wasn't working, but I think you were spot on. Maybe you got more. You got more than members. Who knows? Oh, now it's working. Okay. Thierry? Are you? Oh, wait. You're a member. Thierry, are you there? If not, let's go to Sadia. Can you unmute?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sadia Mohammed. How are you all? Thank you for, I just got an award from Global Trade and World Trade Week. So I wanted to thank you to Susan and the team. I am not yet a member, but I'm looking forward to being a member. So I'm a licensed customs broker with 32 years experience in the business and we clear all the cargo that's imported into the United States. My fun fact is that I kickbox, I love to sew, garden, and I birdwatch.
Okay, great. Thank you. And
Thank you.
congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Shayna? Shayna?
And we are a member, actually.
Oh, okay. So you get 30 seconds. Yay. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm Shayna Katz. I'm the Vice President of AIFS Professional Pathways. We are a U.S. State Department designated J-1 visa sponsor. So we are essentially working with U.S. businesses across sectors of all sizes, bringing foreign talent to the United States for training opportunities at any level of their professional career or internships. And with that, fun fact, in my free time, I make pottery, and I'm actually traveling to Turkey in 2 days for a 2-week trip.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you. And let's see if Thierry's back. Guess not. Oh, there you are. Hi, Thierry.
Sorry, we have technical problems. We have a lot of winds, so the line is a little bit shaky. But quickly, I'm one of the 2 global advisors for the state of Utah, founding member of the Congress for years, and in close meeting writing of the team.
Sorry, cannot hear him.
Hello?
Seems to be talking to somebody.
Yeah, Thierry?
No,
Can
I will
you?
put it in writing. I will put it in writing with the chat.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Yeah, your microphone is a little bit far. All right. So last but not least, the other Doug. Oh,
I'm not
there
sure
you are.
Doug is here. I think Cesar is
There he
here.
is.
Oh,
Which
he is.
other Doug
Okay.
are
Oh,
you
wanna
referring
do
to?
a 30-second intro?
Snuck up on
He's
us.
the Doug. I am the other Doug, just to be
The
clear on the
Doug.
hierarchy here.
All right, the Doug, go ahead. 30
Au
seconds.
contraire, I'll use my 30 seconds to say how amazing Doug Wendt is. I've been watching him and working with him for probably close to 10 years, and I'm really excited that we're implementing HubSpot. It's going to give us not only a great close understanding of what Doug can do around the world, but also it's going to change Global Chamber completely. So thank you, Doug Wendt, for a long time of working together and your friendship. You're amazing.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, that's everyone, right? Did I miss anyone? Good. So last month, we explored how issues like tariffs, DEI, and cross-cultural communication are impacting our global business. And this month, I'd like to take that conversation one step further into the day-to-day realities of leading and collaborating within a diverse team. Whether it's the diversity means cultural background differences or department silos or generational gaps or different working styles. And managing diversity isn't just a value, it's a leadership skill. So I would like us to talk about what's working, what's challenging, and how we can all grow stronger as a global collaborator. So now my first question is, what's one thing that you have done or seen done that helped a diverse team collaborate more effectively? It may be a little big question, but what's one thing you've done or seen someone do it that helped a diverse team collaborate more effectively?
I could say something.
Sure,
You want to
Barry.
do? I would say we've worked with a team, diverse team, like you said, co-creating a future together that was an visionary. In other words, wasn't seen possible at the onset. And when they can get behind and align on a future that they all benefit from, and they're all aligned behind that future, they can produce something that wasn't going to normally happen in the normal course of events.
So let me ask you. So what steps did you take for all the team members to look at the same future? Sometimes, yes, oftentimes in a diverse team, everyone is looking at different directions. So aligning the team members' goals is a challenge. How do you do that?
Yeah, and I got to do it in 30. I'll do it in 1 minute or 2 minutes max. But we had a team of people working for a mining company in Australia that would get together every year to divvy up the budget. It was like $62 million. You got China, you got Argentina, New Guinea wanting their money, and they all wanted their own money because they knew they had the best projects to find world-class ore bodies. It was like 19 grand to drill a hole. It's very expensive. So in getting them together and putting aside their own agendas and seeing that they could create something together that would work for everyone, they invented this context, this vision of 10 and 10. We're going to find 10 world ore class bodies in 10 years, when the normal way of doing things, we were lucky if you found one in 7 years. So they committed to a big, ferocious goal that everyone could get behind. And in order to do that, they had to organize themselves totally differently. They had to take the resources and put it to the best projects. So they all decided this area was the best project, that area would be the best project, instead of their own goal and their own objectives. And that's what they did. And they actually produced the outcomes much sooner than normal. So, but what you're right, it was not easy to get them aligned. Sometimes it would take hours of conversations.
Right.
Off their
days or weeks.
No, it actually happened in 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
That's what the kind of work we do. We produce breakthroughs.
So they actually you guys actually met in person.
Yeah, in Australia we did.
Okay. Has anyone else done something similar or something totally different?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Doug, maybe you have some input?
Sure. It's just funny because we're literally going through this right now. So, so our team is pretty much 1/3 North America, 1/3 South America, 1/3 Africa, mostly in South Africa. And we're trying to, the teams generally are organized around certain areas of focus in the firm. And one of the things that we're working on is breaking down. It's funny. I don't think anyone thinks of it as a cultural barrier. It's not like that's the frame of reference. The frame of reference is just people are working on different schedules. They're working on different clients. But then when we have a client that crosses those boundaries, historically, it's been challenging to get everyone on the same page. So part of it's been restructuring our org chart. But a lot of it has been rethinking how our leadership team communicates so that we take more time to get different points of view. And also that I don't jump to conclusions that are framed in a North American or particularly US mindset. So one of our team leads jokes that she's my Latin American culture whisperer, because, even though we're speaking in English, there's a whole secondary meaning behind a lot of things that I don't fully follow. That's just part of the culture. So I'm getting an education. I'm learning to listen, or even just not even just sit and let the team hash things through, and they're learning from one another. So I think kind of the big takeaway for me is one of the keys to cross-cultural collaboration is to let everyone work on the same problem, which is, how do I get to know people from other cultures? Because they're not necessarily, just because they're not, just because they're working for an American and a lot of them are not Americans, doesn't mean that they're experts in cross-cultural collaboration outside of the North American context, right? That's very North American centric, is to be like, well, everybody else is non-American, so I'm sure they all get it. No, they struggle with
Mhm.
the same stuff. A Colombian, you know, and an Ecuadorian and a South American and someone in Poland. You know, I mean, it sounds like I'm setting up a joke. No, that's a literal conversation that happened last week, and they were all working through cultural differences to
Mm.
try to better understand one another. So the last thing I'll mention is we're actually considering launching an initiative to help teach our team members, including me, but not exclusive to me, about different cultural traditions, backgrounds, and styles to increase our organizational awareness of that across the board.
Okay, so it's a cultural training.
Yeah, we haven't actually finalized a plan yet, but it's something along those lines. Like we've started to
Mhm.
put together like an RFP or at least an outline of what we're looking for. But
Mhm.
yes, that's right. Like how do we increase cross-cultural awareness across our organization?
Okay, okay. Well, that's actually right up my alley. So you and I should talk afterwards.
See?
Yeah.
Done. Look at this. Boom. Member to
Yeah, I'm a
member.
cultural, yeah,
Absolutely.
cross-cultural facilitator, and that's exactly what I do. You know, how to listen and how to communicate, how to communicate effectively, you know, across different cultures and things like that. But I don't want to make it about me today. A few things I heard that you said. You know, one of the things is that you said is let everyone work on the same problems. Sometimes, pretty often, especially in cross culture, people see different problems. And one group may feel that A is a problem, but the other group thinks, no, B is a problem. So coming to a consensus that or uncovering what exactly is the root of the cause or a real problem that we have to solve is a challenge too. And if you try to solve wrong problems, you're not going to go anywhere. So in order to come to a consensus about this is a problem, how do you make your diverse team agree or come to an agreement that this is a problem? I'm gonna
asked the
have,
group,
yeah.
right? Yeah, because the answer is I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would love to hear from someone.
Natsuyo, just a little bit.
Yeah, Barry.
Thing for people to start to see is every person has a valid view. So when you start to see that your view is not the wrong view or the right view, but has something to contribute, then it opens up a door that everybody can make a contribution and be held honored that way. It's like a floor to stand on to come up with solutions. You know,
Right.
you shift the context in which people see things, they see
Mhm.
things differently. So
Yeah.
that's one way of getting people
Right.
on the same page.
Okay. So that's one way to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
And anyone else has an input?
I'd love to hear it.
Oh, you're quiet today.
I'll jump in. I don't know if I have
Sure.
a solution, but at least what I try to do in that kind of in a cultural environment is you have to be inclusive, that everybody's is in the same projects. What I always think is important is be inclusive, open communication, and awareness. And awareness meaning that we have to realize everyone's different. So as we're talking about a problem, some people will see it in a different way.
Mhm.
So those are three things that I try to work on if it is a multicultural team.
Right.
And once there's that togetherness that people understand each other's from advancing from those 3 points, usually you get a pretty good outcome. So that's the experience that I had, and that's what I try to do here.
So openness, open communication,
Right.
awareness,
You have
and
to
what was
obviously talk a lot to make sure that be coming in from different responsibilities. Like this is a long time ago, but when I was at Bank of Tokyo, we had a joint 3-country project creating what we called at that time regional treasury management system. It's one of the treasury systems that internationally that we were creating. So this was a joint project among headquarters and Singapore office and Hong Kong office. So everybody has their different role and different ideas, but we needed to, the Japanese standard was not complement to global standards. So we needed something that would be easier to implement into overseas office. The office that had the resources was that at that time Singapore and Hong Kong. Especially Singapore wanted to make their own system and service, but they needed the money. And that's where I was in the Tokyo. In order to sponsor that, that has to be standardized that we can implement into other countries. So that was one of my key experience a long time ago when I was at Bank of Tokyo in the 1990s, and being a project leader. So even after the merger, I left the bank 3 years later, but the system still was operating afterwards. Merged banks, which was nice to hear afterwards from my former colleagues. And that was implemented into our Bangkok office, London office, and other offices. So that was one of the success cases. But there is an incentive. You have to create incentive and roles, just like any team sport. Everybody has and we have to communicate who needs to do what and who needs to solve what and what the responsibilities are.
Yeah, so
My
clarifying the
job
roles.
is to sponsor, and in order to do that, it has to meet the standardized criteria that it can be implemented in other offices abroad.
And that's one of the ways to build trust within a diverse team, right? Yeah. And in my, if I may, in my experience, sometimes having an outside facilitator is really helpful, or it could be an internal facilitator, but someone who takes a neutral position and who can facilitate all the different opinions, so that some people from certain cultures may have bigger voice than other people, but we need to really uniformly bring out everyone's opinions and everyone's thoughts. And sometimes having a facilitator to kind of normalize the temperature of everyone in the team is really helpful. And I mentioned earlier that sometimes if you are not identifying the real root problem, you're not gonna go anywhere, right? When I was a consultant at McKinsey, sometimes clients came to us saying, well, this is our problem, and what would be the strategy? But when we did some deep dive research, what they said was a problem was not the root problem. The problem was elsewhere. Well, I see some nods, right? So really identifying, really looking at every aspect of the business or daily operation and identify the root problem is a skill, and it's so essential. Well, Anthony, you were nodding when I said, sometimes the problem lies elsewhere. Have you experienced something like that? And if you have, how did you solve it?
Yeah, I would say generally sometimes I just find that issue processing, that the issue that maybe one person's presenting might just be their issue, but you really need to get everyone's perspective at the table, because like you said, that root issue might actually lie somewhere else. And they might not even know that this is an issue for that team, or even in that region or that country. So I think it's often, a good idea to just get diverse perspectives at a table when you're talking about issue processing, because again, that issue for them might actually be symptomatic of another issue elsewhere.
Yeah. And sometimes some issues that you feel, some problems that you feel are the problems could be personal, right? And sometimes some personal feelings get in the way, and the first step to identify the real problem is to separate facts and the personal feelings. So what's the fact? What's your opinion? And separating those two clarifies or allow you to really focus on the facts so that you can start digging deeper into the root of the cause. So, yeah, so going back to something you've done in a diverse team to collaborate more effectively. One more thing I heard from Doug is you said the leaders have to start rethinking. We have to rethink how leaders communicate, and you need to
Yes.
listen more, right?
And I assumed that the cross-cultural communication issue was just me to them instead of them to one another. So they need to become more comfortable with cross-cultural communication, not just me with my non-American team members, if that makes sense. Then you add the virtual piece, which our whole company's virtual. That adds a whole nother layer because you don't
Right.
even get the benefit of the physicality of the in-person, the inferred, the implied, all that. You have got to do it all in the two-dimensional screen. But yeah, you layer those on. So I was treating things like, maybe what would be great is to get communication training for my leadership team. And I need to focus more on cross-cultural communication learning. And then I realized, actually, we all need cross-cultural communication skills. Like I said, right? Just because it's hard for me to remember that because of a lot of our team members who are non-US have worked with US companies for years and years. Right? But that doesn't mean that a Filipino team member, right, who works for an American company and has a career working largely with American companies is no better prepared per se to work with a South African colleague or a Colombian colleague than I am. I made a misjudgment in my brain just based on my own frame. Hope that adds some insight.
Yeah. So when you're communicating, or when you try to communicate effectively with different people from different cultures, do you need to know a little bit about that country's culture, or what would be the first step? I wanna actually ask Melanie about that. She's Melanie, you're also in communication. What's your 2 cents?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I had an interruption here on my end. So I heard my name
that's okay.
and you asked for my 2 cents. Can you repeat the last question?
Yes, well, of course. When you wanna communicate effectively across cultures, do you need to have a basic understanding of that country's culture, or is it not so important? What would be the first step?
Thank you for repeating, and I got about half of that, so I'm glad you repeated for me. Okay, so I was just doing a presentation right prior to this that had a piece of culture in the communication piece. So I'd say, of course, if you can learn about, if you know who the audience is going to be and you can learn about their culture prior, make sure that you do a few things, right? Make sure you know if there's something in your presentation or communication that you need to change in order to not offend them, and also to relate to them, right? You want to, if you're using examples and stories, you want to relate to the people that you're speaking to. So it's great if you can. Otherwise, if you don't know who's going to be in your audience because you're giving a keynote and it could be anyone, then you want to do 2 things really well. You want to make sure that if you're introducing concepts or lingo or words, that you tell them what it is first, so you don't leave people behind, and that everybody can come along the ride with you, and they're not like, oh, I don't know what that is, and then they start feeling bad and tuning you out. And the other thing is, you want to make sure, and you want to go slow enough to make sure everybody can hear and understand and process. And the other thing is, when in doubt, leave it out. So if you think something might be offensive, then don't take the chance. And of course, if something involves politics, religion, or anything controversial, chances are that does not make a good topic for your cross-cultural audience. So yeah, and culture can even be like, for example, I remember there was an executive coach I helped hire to do a workshop for a company, and it was a Brooklyn-based nonprofit. And the guy kept talking about golf courses and country clubs and being like dog eat dog world. And I'm like, no, this is a Brooklyn company that's a nonprofit. please take out the country club reference, take out the golf reference, take out the like dog eat dog world type of reference. This is not this company's culture. So even beyond, like, it wasn't a racial thing. It was people from New York versus other people from New York with totally different company cultures.
Mhm.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so you need to be relatable, and you have to do you have to do your basic homework, right? So that you can touch on. I mean, you can cover all the to-dos and not to-dos. So when you're working in a diverse team and trying to solve some complex issues, then it takes more than knowing that country's culture, right? And like Doug said, you need to listen. Then how do you listen? You need to actively listen. And what's active listening, right? So you usually, well, let me ask, what's active listening? Someone?
Could we have
Someone, yeah.
could we have Sadiha speak? She had a comment, and maybe she can tell us from her culture what's active listening. I just noticed she made some comments.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Yeah, sure. So active listening, what is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a comment on the cultures. My name is pronounced Sadia.
Oh,
So
Sadia.
when I started my business, I started working with a lot of West Africans, and the culture is very, very different. Even though I am a Muslim, I found that Muslim men didn't like a woman in authority. That's when I started 30 years ago. And, you know, that the way they spoke to me, and sometimes I still get it now from people from the Middle East. If I tell them this is the regulation with US Customs, they tend to push back on me a little bit because the culture is different. The way that business is done in many countries, not just Muslim countries, but in Eastern Europe also, it's very, very different. I am very straightforward, and I will tell you that this is a regulation. This is how it has to be done. And their culture and their thinking, it's not like we do it in the United States. So I get a lot of that from many of my clients from all over the world. And you have to learn about their culture and understand it. And so I travel to many countries, you know, to become familiar with their culture. And I know how to relate to them a little bit better now. I think that's very important when you do international trade.
Yeah. So usually your natural way of communication might be straightforward and direct. So how do you adjust yourself, and how do you sense the difference, and how do you adjust yourself?
I think in the culture, some of them, not all of them, but I think they don't see woman in an authoritative position. So I'm the president of my company. I represent you at United States Customs and FDA and all the government agencies, and I am pretty straightforward. This is a regulation, and I had it even up until today. I was telling my client that this is what U.S. Customs said, and he's arguing with me and saying, no, this is what it should be. And sometimes this is the regulation. I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to do it something differently, then I'm not the customs broker for you. But I get a lot of that from many, many of my clients. And I think it's because I'm a woman. And I think it has to do a lot with the cultural stuff.
Okay. So now this is getting into something more than a communication issue. It could be a cultural structural issue as well, which I also address in my workshop, Doug. But I'm not gonna give my workshop here.
On it.
Just wanted to go. Well, sometimes in Sadia's case, you're the authority, and you're talking about regulations that you can't really mess with. Then you need to be really direct and authoritative. But in business, sometimes when a team is trying to solve the same issues together and come up with a solution, then both sides or all sides have to come in and you know, come together, right? And I wanted to go back to the listening piece, active listening. I posed a question: how do you actively listen?
I can take a stab at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's generally eye contact, no distractions. At times, it's good to just repeat what you're hearing so that you make sure you're hearing correctly. Even your body language, like being open, facing the person. Yeah, I think that's most of what active listening means to me, at least.
Okay, that's a textbook
Yeah,
answer for active listening. Stephanie.
Yeah, maybe just to add, and then maybe also ask them follow-up questions or something, so to show that you are really listening, that you're really interested in the conversation, want to hear more, and yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. So how I look at active listening has 3 steps. So first step is to show that you're listening. So as like Anthony said, look into their eyes and read the body language. And then the second step is to show that you are understanding. So it could be nodding or repeating, summarizing, and maybe like Stephanie said, ask a question so that you can make sure that they understood or you're understanding them. And the third and the most important step, I think, and most people don't do this, step 3 is ask good questions so that you can deepen their thoughts, widen their thoughts, and help them move forward. The good questions to deepen, widen, and move forward. This asking good questions is key to digging deeper into the real issues. And when I say good questions, there's no universal good question for everybody. A good question for me might be a bad question for Doug, or depending on the situation, good question can turn into a bad question, right? Or something too light that it doesn't have enough power to dig deeper. So coming up with a good question for that person or for the group in front of you at that time with this issue is really key. And how do you come up with good questions? Then you have to hire me as a workshop facilitator. But I just want to say that the good questioning skill is a really integral part of good facilitator for diverse team. Any thoughts on that?
I think you got to get down just to the basics. I think a good question is just something that is truly interesting to you. It may be a good question written, but if you have no interest or you're not being genuine, I think that will come across and will not be well received. And so I think it's very important to be genuine and be present, because you may have a question and the discussion might have went somewhere else and the question has no bearing to what you were talking about. So it could be perceived that you were just not even listening, and actually the exact opposite happens. So
Yeah.
I've always tried to be sincere and genuine
Yeah.
in all of my experiences.
Yeah, and my how I define good question is the good questions allow the other person to get some learning. They learn something about themselves, or the question encourages them to think deeper so that they can come up with their own solution. They get enlightened. So that's my definition of good questions. And the good questions come from a blind spot. Like if they're not interested, like you said, if they're not interested at all in a certain topic, it's not going to be a good question. But if they're very interested, but if they're asking that same question or similar question all the time to themselves, then there's no learning. So that's not really a good question either. So the good questions come from the blind spot where it's in the vicinity of what's always on their mind, but didn't think about it from that particular angle. So you're giving an angle to think differently. So that's what I think is a good question.
Could I ask you a question about mentoring in a multicultural environment?
Just joking. Yeah. Good. Go ahead.
So we have a mentoring program in my firm, and we have a lot of people. We have a separate group. I'm an audit guy. I'm a white man, with 30 plus years experience. And I was just given a mentee who is a young woman who works in our Korean practices group, who is, she's bilingual, but she's working, specifically with Korean. We have Korean clients that want to work with Korean speaking accountants. So I am, and she was given to me purposely, with intent, and I'm happy to mentor her. But I was wondering if there's any cues, you could give me to help it start off on the right foot.
Wow, that's a tough one, because I need to know that person a little bit more and in the background. And also, even though she may be bilingual and she has she's a Korean descent, that doesn't tell you that much. I'm Japanese 100%, born and raised, but I've been living in New York for 30 years, right? So am I a typical Japanese? Not at all. And I've had the biggest communication mistake with a Japanese company, with a Japanese CEO. When I was a consultant, the CEO hired me, and as a consultant, I was very direct, and I did my thorough research, and I presented my case, which was different, very different than what he originally thought. And I shared my thoughts with all the team members, his team members. And one day he calls me over and he goes, "You're fired." And he didn't say much, but long story short, I basically, in Japanese, we say stepped on your face, or put mud on your face, in front of everyone. Never mind the strategy. Strategy was good, but the way I communicated, the way I presented my idea really put mud on his face. And he also expected me to act in a certain way, a Japanese young female who's hired by him, right? So there was a hierarchy issue, and there was a context difference, and there's a we say collectiveness, individuality and collectiveness culture. There was that difference too. So, well, long story. I mean, it's a long answer, but I need to look a little further into where she is in the cultural mapping and what her motivation might be. Otherwise, if I give you a short answer, it's going to be a stereotype. Sorry, I'm not answering your question, but I hope it makes sense. When you approach cross-culture or cross-cultural communication, it's not, no one case is the same, and not everybody is the same. So I really emphasize, I'm going to get to you, Melanie and Doug. I really emphasize what I call the culture of one. Everyone has a unique layers of cultures, layers of influences that form your unique culture. So you need to get deeper into the culture of one to understand that individual. So I'm going to say that much. And Melanie, you had some thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say one of my thoughts, and again, I'm more of a communication expert than a cultural one, but my thought of things to watch out for are like turn taking, because like if I'm just being very stereotypical about my clients, my Asian female clients tend to tell me that they don't feel comfortable interrupting or disagreeing sometimes, and kind of for the reasons you mentioned, Natsuyo, that like maybe they're being deferential and observing a hierarchy that you may not realize they're observing, Steve. So you may want to encourage, if what you want is for the person to speak their mind and interrupt you and feel free to disagree, whether or not it is her background to do that or not do that, maybe you just kind of set expectations and ground rules to say, like, these are things that I would like you to do in these meetings. So if you have a question, interrupt. If you disagree, tell me. If you know what I mean? Like, whether or not she needed to hear that, it could be good that you just set expectations so that you're not assuming anything, that everybody's just on the same playing field. And it could be something to do in general with people that are either new or interns or folks that are, they know that you have 30 years experience. not to mention that you're a white guy. So it may just be nice to tell people like, hey, this is how I am, and this is what I tell all of the new people or all the interns that, do this, feel free to do these things. And I'm encouraging you to do them. And
Yeah,
this
creating
way,
a safe space.
yeah.
Right.
Right, no,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yes, I always try to tell people, there's no difference than me and you. I've just been doing it longer. Really try to break down some walls so that, they see me as an equal, and I want to see them as an equal, not as something, different. But you have to earn that, and so it'll be slow, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a challenge, and hopefully I'll get some good feedback. But thank you.
Yeah. So we only have 3 more minutes left. But Doug, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to zero in on, I think, the point that was just being discussed. Melanie, you're absolutely right. The thing that I keep realizing is that there are 2 elements here. First is cross-cultural communication, and the other is communication. Like, I haven't mastered communication. I try, I have a degree in it, but I haven't mastered it. And I'm constantly having to learn every day how to be a better communicator with my team, and a better participant in their communication. So it's those 2 together. It's communication and the cross-cultural component.
Yep. Yep. Communication and cross-cultural communication can be very different, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Doug, for the really nice wrap up. It was we could keep going for a little longer, but we only have 1 hour today. So thank you so much for the rich conversation. To me, it's really clear that diverse teams don't manage themselves, but the real leadership is necessary to turn differences into strength, right? So I would love to continue our conversation next month, and let's keep sharing what works and keep supporting each other as global leaders. And back to you, Susan.
Okay, thanks, Natsuyo. The only thing that I'm a little disappointed, Shayna, we didn't hear anything from you, and your company runs the cultural exchange. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you so much. Several items that folks were touching upon were precisely what I had noted in terms of things like setting those initial ground rules. And it's a good exercise for us as leaders within our companies to actually sit and think about how to define those, the culture within our company and our cultural expectation, but also approaching folks coming from other cultures, not as I'm teaching you about the right way to do this, but also asking those questions, to sort of pull out ideas as a way of saying, I value your cultural perspective, and that brings a richness to the work that we are doing, and that we would also like to be learning from you. And really finding that way of expressing, again, the value in what that difference is not a bad thing. It is something that enriches the work that we're doing, and making sure that folks that are coming from those different backgrounds feel that sense of value and what they're bringing to the table.
Just wanted to say one thing. So the mindset is really important here, and I call that yes and mindset. We tend to be, yeah, I value your culture, or we respect you, but right, we really feel like saying, yeah, but in cross culture, it's really important to have the yes and mindset. Yes, here's a difference, and if we do it this way, it's going to be even more. It's better. Yes and mindset.
That's
great.
And then the last thing I was just going to say was about simply investing in. Of course, we work with companies that are investing in training in these areas, and it's amazing how many companies don't do that. Or the assumption is we're training, the very green talent. But as we were talking, Stephen was even mentioning the number. Just because we have so many years of experience does not mean that we have mastered cultural competence. And so the concept of investing in the top with this is so important, because that skill set is not innate for most of us.
Okay, everybody, this is great. We're going to continue next month. I do want to say thank you very much, Natsuyo, for moderating and facilitating actually most of the meeting, and for everybody who came today. And I do want to remind the 2 of you, I think we only have Sadiha and Salim, I think, who left. If you're not members, please understand that you can only come to 1 more meeting for this wonderful opportunity that you have here. If you're coming to a New York City chapter meeting, we'd love to have you as a member, and I can be, I will help you understand what you need to do to become one. The next meeting that we have is May 22nd in person. Please sign up. It's going to be at CBiz, May 22nd at 5 o'clock. And then the next meeting like this one that Natsuyo co-facilitated today is June 9th at 5 p.m. And before that, we have the June 5 meeting. So look at the events calendar. You have May 22, June 5, June 5th, and June 23. All those meetings coming out of this New York City chapter. Okay, great, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.